Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of RawRadiantHealth.com, and I'm Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So it's Thursday, it's almost the end of the week, and today I actually got a request a few weeks ago to just to give some recommendations on different appliances for a raw food kitchen. So today I'm going to talk about dehydrators, and I'm also going to talk about dehydrated food. So the first thing I do want to mention though is that to start a raw food diet, you don't need anything. When I first started out, I didn't have anything. I had like a generic blender and a knife pretty much, okay? And even to this day, I still don't have a high-speed blender. I have just a generic kitchen blender. And I'd say it was only within like after my first year of being raw that I even got a dehydrator. So these things, you don't need anything to start. The only thing you really kind of need is a decent knife, something to cut things up, but that's about it. And then, you know, if you want to invest in any kind of appliances, by all means go for it, because it can really make your life easier and you can make some really delicious food. And this can also just help you continue on raw foods. You know, I think sometimes the reason why people fall off is that they have cravings and they don't have an alternative to that craving. And you have to listen to what it is that your body's kind of calling for, sometimes even what your emotions are calling for, and be able to have a healthier version. And having these appliances can enable you to make that healthy version. So Dehydrator is great because, especially for those of you that are, you know, you crave kind of like crunchy food or crackers, or you also are sprouting your nuts and then you want to re-dehydrate them. And, you know, I mean, there's so many uses for a dehydrator, and so it's something I'm really happy to have. But I do want to stress too, for all of you that are getting into dehydrated foods, is, you know, it shouldn't be the bulk of your diet, okay? Really, dehydrated foods are, my view of it is it's almost like an accessory to the rest of your meal, but it shouldn't be the main part of the meal. You don't want to be loading up on so much dehydrated foods, because the dehydrator takes out all the water out of the food, and that water in our fruits and vegetables, it's very special water. It's structured water, and it's water that our body needs, and it's full of nutrition. And you know, you taking out all that water can create some digestive problems. So my advice to anyone that does ever eat dehydrated food is always to make sure that you're eating it with water-rich vegetables, okay? That, like, let's say you were to have flax crackers or chia crackers, vegetable crackers. I wouldn't recommend having it with like a nut butter, okay? Because then it's just gonna become like a brick in your stomach and it's gonna clog you up. But I would suggest having it with like a juicy salsa, or having it with sprouts and having it with lettuce and some great tomatoes. Eating it with foods that are water rich, that will compensate for the lack of water in the dehydrated food. I also suggest too is that if you are including dehydrated foods in your diet, to make sure that you also really increase the fluids that you're drinking. Okay, just to make sure that you're hydrated and things are moving along. I don't suggest eating dehydrated food every day. You know, every other day is great, but not every day, and certainly not every meal. Okay, you might have it regularly, but try and just have it at least just one meal a day and not all your meals, okay? Because really, you know, raw food diet is about eating living, fresh food. That's where you're going to get the nutrition. That's where you're going to get the life force. That's where you're going to get the energy, is from foods that are in their natural state. And dehydrator is great because it almost kind of cooks things in a certain way at a very low temperature, that you're not destroying the enzymes and you're not destroying the nutrients, which is great, but you are losing that vital water and that structured water in the fruits and vegetables that is very important for your cells and for your well-being, okay? So I'm gonna now show you the dehydrator that I recommend. I pretty much recommend a 9-tray Excalibur dehydrator. I know that there's cheaper ones out there that are kind of round and donut shaped, and the trays are donut shaped inside. And I find from many clients that have those, they've had like many headaches because the problem is that there's not much space. And when you're trying to make like something like crackers that you want them flat and you want to make a lot in one shot kind of thing, to do it on the donut thing where it's like they don't go flat, there's not much space, it becomes quite a headache. Also too, many complaints as well that temperature varies at different areas of that type of dehydrator, that most people are much more satisfied and happy just having an Excalibur dehydrator. It's a box, it's got the heating fan in the back, it blows the air, and you can do a lot at one time. I suggest using the larger one rather than the smaller one, because a lot of times you need more space, because let's say you're making like, I'll show you with the dehydrator, but like let's say you're making something that's kind of high, you have to take a few trays out, and if you've got a smaller dehydrator, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to fit things in. Okay, so, and also I just want to mention too, someone had asked me a question about how much electricity does one of these dehydrators use? How much would it cost per day? I did take a little look at Excalibur's website, and they did say on average to use the amount of electricity, how much it costs for like 1 hour of dehydration is about 4 to 5 cents. So if you were dehydrating something for 24 hours, it would be $1.20. Some things just need to be dehydrated for 3 to 5 hours. Other things might take 24 hours. So everything depends, but when you compare the prices of dehydrating your own food compared to buying, dehydrated food at a health food store, I mean, it's worth the difference, and it's worth the electricity. Okay, so I'm going to show you what the dehydrator looks like, and let's take a look. Okay, so here's my dehydrator, and it's a 9 tray, and you open it from the front, and it's got the trays, and yeah, so I'm just going to show you what I meant by why it's better to have a 9 tray rather than a 5. So as you can see, there's not much space between each dehydrator tray. That a lot of times, like let's say you were making like kale chips, you probably have to take out 1 tray to have enough space between this tray and that one to fit what you're putting. Sometimes too, if you want to warm something up and put a whole bowl in, you might actually have to take out like another tray. And if you've got only like a 5 tray dehydrator, then you're not going to have much room. So I always suggest going with a larger one because it's a lifetime investment. And why not go with something that you can use forever and you're happy with? So that's a dehydrator. And pretty much too, people have asked me, like, can you use your oven as a dehydrator? The main thing is that if you put your oven on the lowest temperature, it's still too hot normally. Sometimes people have an oven that really does only go down to like 105 degrees, because when you use a dehydrator, you don't want to be dehydrating anything above 105 degrees. So you can check your oven and put a thermometer in it and see how high the temperature inside the oven goes. If it goes beyond 105 degrees, that means that you're gonna, whatever you put in there, you're gonna lose the nutrients and kill the enzymes, and that sort of defeats the purpose. Plus, also, I'm a little bit wary of actually using an oven for a dehydrator, just because you leave it on for so many hours that unless you're sitting in the kitchen and watching it, I mean, I wouldn't want to go to bed at night with my oven on, okay? I mean, I'd be afraid that, like, you know, who knows, something might catch on fire and you know, I wake up with no home. So I prefer the safety of just using a dehydrator. I know that everything's good, and so yeah, so those are my tips on the dehydrator. And on my blog at www.rawradianthealth.com, I've put links of where you can find a dehydrator and get one, like online in Canada, the United States, Australia, and the UK. So if you're looking for a dehydrator, there's links onto where to go. All right, so have a fabulous, fabulous day, everyone, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.